We're comparing the commandment given to Adam and that given to Noah, and showing that the forbidden fruit in Adam's day was like the forbidden meat that did not have its blood shed in Noah's day. Both could eat of any kind of food except one. Adam could eat of all the fruit and herbs except the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. Noah could eat all the meat except the meat whose blood was not shed. And so we see a parallel and a message when we combine these two pictures together. The serpent told the woman, "Your eyes will be opened to know good and evil. You shall be wise as gods." What need have we of God if we're wise as gods? We can be our own God. And Paul said our eyes need to be opened all right, but that we might know the hope of his calling, of God's work and God's power that he exerts toward us to the same degree in which he raised up Christ from the dead and set him at his own right hand. It's God's work and God being emphasized as being the source of work, as opposed to self being the source of work to be righteous. Folks, we can't make ourselves righteous. The true Christian religion teaches that you can't reform sinners, you can't take them and make them better through self-improvement and willpower. The sinner has to die, and that death is the death of Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago. When I believed in the death of Jesus Christ for my salvation, in that moment, I died in God's eyes, and I need to see it in my own eyes. I paid the price, and so death was required. The shedding of blood was required. That's the truth. That is the teaching I need to eat and devour. When Jesus said, "Eat my flesh, drink my blood," he was talking about devouring the truths concerning his broken body on the cross and his shed blood on the cross. No, when we have communion and eat the bread, we're not actually eating Jesus' body. We're not actually drinking his blood when we drink the wine. No, Jesus never meant that at all. He was talking about the truths regarding the cross. In fact, when we have communion, break the bread and pour the wine, that symbolizes, it only symbolizes that the truth that he died for me so that I could say I died is what I'm saved from, what causes my salvation. And by eating that and drinking that represents that. The breaking that he occurred is now in me. I was broken in death. The bloodshed he experienced is now in me. I experienced that. Through him, I died to sin. I don't have to kill myself physically. No one has to shoot me and kill me. I died in a very real way through Jesus Christ's death. That's the whole concept of sacrifice, vicarious atonement. It means that he died as me. He didn't die so I wouldn't have to die. He died as me because I had to die. You see, it's appointed unto men once to die, and after that the judgment. And Hebrews 9 says that is the reason Christ died once. Why would he have to die once if it's appointed to us to die once? If his death wasn't going to count for our deaths. You see, if I owed the light bill, the light company, $10,000 and I couldn't pay it, and somebody else came along who was wealthy and paid it for me, the light company doesn't care who paid it as long as it's paid on my account. Well, that's what happened with death. Jesus Christ died on my account so that it can be said, I died, I paid the debt. I want my eyes open to the power that is towards me, according to the power God used when he raised up Christ from the dead. In Philippians 3:8, Paul said this, "Yea, doubtless I count all things but loss, for the excellency of the knowledge of Jesus Christ my Lord." I want to know all these truths I can. I want to feed on this fruit of life all I can. I want to understand more and more that I need his life, that it's not a matter of me making myself good and me avoiding evil in order for me to be in heaven one day. No, I can't do good enough. I can't avoid evil enough. It's not in me to do it. But through God's life, I can be saved. Not through a knowledge of good and evil that we acquire, the evils of this and the evils of that. All of these sermons preached in churches across the country, the evils of this and the good and virtue of that. That's nothing but the knowledge of good and evil. We can't simply diagnose a problem. We've got to give the remedy for it. And the remedy is life. Philippians 3:10, that I may know him, Paul said, and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his sufferings, and being made conformable unto his death. I don't want to know good and evil. That's not good enough. Oh, I'll avoid all the evil that needs to be avoided if I can only learn how to tap into His life and walk after the Spirit. In John 15, Jesus said He's the vine and we're the branches. We can't bear fruit on our own any more than a branch can use its willpower and produce an apple or an orange. It needs to be plugged into the vine and it'll just happen naturally. You just plug into Jesus and it'll just come naturally for you to do what's good. You'll know. It'll become part of your nature. The excellency of the knowledge of Jesus Christ, knowing Him in the power of His resurrection, that involves the idea of shed blood, death. Knowing Him in the fellowship of His sufferings, that involves the idea of shed blood. Being made conformable unto His death, and that involves the idea of shed blood. Analyze every sermon you hear. Analyze every preacher you hear preach. Analyze your own thoughts of what Christianity is all about and what it prioritizes. Contrast every candy stick of Christians with the cross principle. Find out if God's work is stressed more than man's work. God's efforts and not our efforts. God's power and not our willpower. Life and not condemnation. Encouragement and not hammering and condemning and beating. Encouraging you to live. Do you walk away from the house of God excited and invigorated to do the will of God by His power? Or have you been beaten all during that time by a man condemning you with the knowledge of good and evil and making you feel so worthless you don't know how you'll go on? You felt better when you came to service than when you left the church. Ask God to fill your soul with revelations of His work on the cross. Feast on these things when you read the Bible. Pray that God would open your understanding when you read. Read Christian books that are packed with these truths. There are many good ones. Listen to gospel songs that praise the work of the cross of Jesus Christ. Read the Bible to understand more of His work and not what you are supposed to do to make yourself a god. Veritably speaking, you're trying to make yourself a god. You're listening to the serpent when you're hearing somebody say, don't do this and do that and don't do this and do that, and hammering and condemning you. Oh, folks, let's feast on life. God bless you.